Hello, everybody. How you guys doing? My name is Mark. This is Why I Hate the World. Off to a little bit of a slow start this morning, but that's okay. We are 11:07. It's not too late. I should probably get in the habit of just starting at 11 and then having one of those countdown timers or whatever that everybody else uses. Anyway, maybe one of these days I'll get around to it. So, lots of stuff in the news to talk about, but I want to talk more about abortion because I think this is going to be one of the defining issues of not just this next election, but really of our times. This I think has the potential to really define um, our generation in a way that not a lot of things, have. Right. Currently, we don't really have much in the way of distinguishing accomplishments, you know, or events where people have come together or societal change, stuff like that. You know, this I think it will be as important in the history books, I think, as say gay marriages or trans rights. This is definitely going to be something that people are going to remember about the 2020s and the social movements of this era, right? And because it's kind of an issue that defines who we are as Americans, at least in my opinion. I mean, even besides the whole freedom and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And the the stakes are incredibly high for abortion here, and this is why I still want to talk about it. Because I don't know about you, but I'm still kind of angry, you know, that it's even going this way. And it's a barometer, number one. It's like abortion is sort of like the canary in the coal mine for other rights being in danger. You know, I mean, besides the fact that 35 million women don't have a right to bodily autonomy anymore like they used to. So, before we get started in earnest, I think we're gonna start a new piece today because, I'm just that other thing that we were working on. I'm just getting a little tired of it. You know what I mean? So, what we need to do here is do a new thing. We need to make it much bigger because this computer has um, you know, the ability to handle a much bigger thing. So, and okay, that's still a little big, but that's all right. We'll keep that around there. And we need to go to, where's the opacity for this? Brush settings, diameter spacing. I don't see opacity. That's gonna suck. But that's okay. We'll figure that out. So anyway, I'm probably just gonna doodle. I don't even really know what I'm gonna draw yet. Here's the thing. Okay, I wanted to start though with a video. So let's go ahead and do my laptop window on that side, okay? This is something that happened um, about 5 days ago in Iowa, right? Let me just make that super big. This is in Iowa at an abortion rights protest where people were protesting the fact that they do not have abortion rights anymore. And a truck decided just to pull through a crowd and potentially putting, a dozen people in danger. Somebody got it on film. Through. And if you look, he just ran over that woman's leg. So when people tell you, when the conservatives tell you out there that, all the liberals and progressives and Democrats and stuff are the ones going out who are violent when they protest. When it's the liberals and the Democrats and the progressives that are burning down cities and stuff like this. Let's not forget that you know These people right here who are out there protesting, trying to do something about your rights, trying to help you keep your rights. This is how the other side responds. That guy apparently was waiting. Let's turn off this. Let's turn that off because it's fucking sad and disturbing. That guy was waiting at a stoplight like everybody else, and apparently was very, very indignant, wanted to get going. I don't know, maybe he had to take a shit or something. Maybe he had to go to the bathroom, whatever. Pulled out in front of everyone else, and then just plowed his way through the crowd and ran over a woman's ankle. Here's the thing about that, right? I want to show you guys something. In Iowa, where this happened, right? Let's roll this up. Here's an article from Salon. Driver attempted to run over protesters during abortion rights rally in Iowa. Right. No one was put in the was killed, thankfully, but a woman did have her like leg run over. I think he ran over her ankle. She had to go to the hospital. Right. The driver of the Ford truck maneuvered around multiple cars at a red light and drove through the tail end of a group of demonstrators who were crossing the street downtown, running over one woman's ankle and sending her to the hospital. So the guy was at the back of the traffic, went around the other cars, which basically means he like illegally went around them because, if you're at the back of the fucking traffic, you can't do that. So he probably went on the other side of the street or some shit and then plowed through them. He tried, let me put this down in the chat for you guys. I will do that in a moment. He tried to murder them. These women were see him coming and a bunch of people put their hands out to stop him and he just kept going. Here's the thing that makes this very interesting. Let's put that back down to a reasonable size and turn that off. And then I will put that article down in the chat for you guys. Here's something that's very interesting, though. In Iowa, back in during the George Floyd protests, the Republicans passed a law that basically gave immunity to drivers for running people over. And the reason they did this is because there was one time where a guy tried to run a bunch of people over, and then the people in the cars, like a guy, like a conservative dude, like tried to run over a bunch of protesters, and the protesters basically like smashed up his car, right? And it became this meme along the right wing where it was sort of like, oh, the liberals are going to like drag you out of your car and kill you. So you have to like, stop them or whatever, right? Hang on. You know what we need to do here? We need to find the right tool. So, yeah. And so in a bunch of states, they started proposing all of these laws about how it was like they were going to basically give drivers immunity, so that way they could run people over with abandon and not go to jail. And in 6 states, they passed laws basically saying that. And Iowa is one of those states. And it's sort of like they're enabling people to enact violence. This is like the predilection of right-wing politicians in order to pass laws like to throw these sorts of like this sort of red meat to the crazies, I guess is what it is, right? And you know what we're gonna do? I don't know. I have like really no idea what I want to draw right now. I don't want to work on that other piece though, because it's like boring the shit out of me. Maybe we can find something to just color. Let me see what I got here. Do I got any kind of downloads, pictures? Do I got anything saved on this? Fuck, I don't actually have any pictures. Okay, you know what? Crap. I guess I could just fuck it. I guess we'll just doodle. Just start with a circle. There you go. So, yeah, it's very kind of like they're like basically enabling their people in order to enact violence, which is ridiculous and bullshit, and then also kind of shows where we're at as a country. Let's see, does this? Yeah, I guess that kind of works. All right. I've never done, all right, so this kind of sketching on Citra, I've never actually done that. So let's see what we got here. I guess I'm just going to start drawing. I don't even really know what I'm going to draw yet. So wanted to start off with that because it shows the mindset that we're dealing with here, right? Um, then I wanted to talk a little bit about abortion proper. So, there's been this push recently, ever since the ruling came down from Republicans. They have enacted, well, as we went over last week, um, a number of states had trigger laws which just went into effect, right? So now abortion is strictly regulated, if not outright banned, in about 26 states. So more than actually half, that's more than half the country, right? You know what, that looks like shit. Let's just undo all that. God, I don't know. I'm kind of like, for once, I'm like stuck for ideas. I don't really know what to draw. I don't know. I guess I'll just have to do something, I guess. So, now a lot of these Republican politicians in these different states, though, that's not good enough. And they're trying to do two different things, right? Trying to ban Plan B and Plan C pills because a lot of their trigger laws don't account for Plan C pills, right? So that's the first thing. And then also, there's been this push to prevent people from going to other states in order to get abortions, right? Because, if you think it's going to stop at the states, you're wrong. You know, you're very naive if you think the Republicans are going to stop at the states, right? Mike Pence came out, basically said that he wants a national abortion ban, right? You know what? I'm just not in the mood right now to like doodle. Let's just get rid of this. Let's just open up the thing we were working on before. Fuck it. Fuck it. Seriously, like, you know, let me see. Where even is that? Can I just go to open recent? Yeah, let's just go back to this because I don't know. You have to be in a creative mindset in order to like doodle, you know what I mean? And I'm just not in that I'm just not in the mindset now. So I think it'd just be easier because this kind of thing is like I can just color this and I don't have to think. So fuck it. I don't really feel like thinking right now. We're just gonna go back to coloring, which kind of sucked. I didn't really want to work on this today, but fuck it. Let's just do it. I'm kind of in a creative funk at the moment. What are you gonna do, folks? Right? Anyway, you know why I'm in a creative funk? Because like all the news is so fucking depressing. That's why. Right? Because fascism is creeping in and it's fucking up my vibe here. It's hard to be creative when you're angry, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Because I'm kind of angry. I'm angry when I see things like that. When I see things like, a truck running people over and then the driver quite possibly getting away with it because a law was passed to allow him to get away with it. That kind of pisses me off, you know. And that's really like, here's the thing, right? If you can see that, if you can watch that at home right now and agree with what that driver did, you're part of the problem, right? Seriously, it's very, you should be appalled by that. Anyone who's you know, um, someone who respects freedom and the rule of law should be appalled by that because those protesters were not breaking the law. They were just protesting. You know, you have a right to protest in this country, and that includes walking across the street when, there's cars. You don't have a right to run people over. You don't have a right to brutalize people at protests, which is kind of what's going on now with, all these people that are out there protesting, for their right to bodily autonomy and the police cracking down. And it's kind of like George Floyd all over again. People, the cops hitting them with tear gas and shit like that. Perfectly like, peaceful protesters who aren't burning anything down. And, how many times have you heard that from the right wing over the last, year? They went and they burned down all the cities. When in real life, it's just like, it's basically the cops who are the ones who are causing all the goddamn violence. You guys remember those videos of like police going around like fucking slashing tires and then like shooting people in the face with like rubber bullets and crap like that, Um, fucking running and like, beating up pregnant women, that kind of thing. This is what happens when you just rely on protests. The state cracks down hard. You notice the state never cracks down hard on right-wing protesters, right? Where the fuck was the state on January 6th? They weren't there. Where were the cops on January 6th? How come they didn't have riot guns and and rubber bullets and all that shit when the fucking like, when the fucking Christofascists tried to take over the goddamn country? It's kind of ridiculous, right? Anyway, here's the thing about all that, right? So I wanted to talk about a poll. This is a poll from Pew Research that happened on that was from June 13th. So about 2 weeks ago, a little more than 2 weeks ago. This is right before the ruling came down. That right before the Supreme Court overruled 50 years of precedent, ignored 50 years of precedent and took away women's right to choose, the right to their own bodily autonomy. From Pew Research, June 13th. And it would be interesting to see how much these numbers have changed since the ruling came down. I would imagine that they'd be a little bit more skewed in favor of abortion. 61% of people in the country say abortion should be legal in all or most cases, right? So that is a pretty clear majority, 61%. Okay, that's like, you know, there's no ambiguity there, right? If we lived in an actual democracy and people got what they wanted because it was a democracy, then we would have legalized abortion in every state because that's what the people want. So let's keep that in mind, right? 37% say it should be illegal, right? So that's what we got to remember. The people who want this to be illegal, who want to take away your rights, are in the minority by far. That's like, it's not even close how much of a minority that is, right? So you would think that with such a low amount of the population, the majority of the country, it would be legalized. But it's not legalized. In the majority of the country, it is heavily restricted, if not outright banned as of this moment. Okay, what's wrong with this picture? So let's break that down a little bit more and we'll start to see what's wrong with the picture. It's of the people broken down by political party, 80% of Democrats want it to be legal in all or most cases. 38% of Republicans want it to be all or legal in most cases, right? That's what's wrong. So you go, well, there are more Democrats in the country than there are Republicans. And that's why the majority of the people in the country want it to be legal, but the Republicans have an abnormal amount of power, right? They have a disproportionate amount of power. I guess that's a better word, depending on their population size. They've managed to seize more power than what the electorate would normally grant them. And that's why. That's why it's illegal in half the country. Right. Now, granted, the most likely reason for this, I mean, besides the fact that in half the country it's like gerrymandered and shit like that, it's also because the states where it is restricted or illegal have very low populations, like Missouri, Oklahoma, Wyoming, shit like that. Something like 500,000 people live in Wyoming. It's nothing. That's a very low amount of people, but that basically takes an entire swath of the country. So that's the thing to keep in mind. It's like the a very large amount of the country is control like is where like a very smaller amount of people actually live, so they control larger amounts of territory. But that doesn't really, I mean, that's not really much of a consolation for anyone who happens to live in those states who are now have their rights restricted. You got to keep that in mind too, right? Anyway, so that's one thing. Over time, though, these numbers have been increasing for both Republicans and Democrats. They've been going up, right? Although mostly for Republicans, it's remained stable. It's increased by like 3 points over the last 30 years, so it is slowly going up for Republicans, right? By contrast, for Democrats, support for abortion is way up. 30 years ago, it was at 60%. Now it's at 80%. So you can kind of see where where the support is coming from, right? A little bit more of a breakdown here. So by race, 59% of white people think that abortion should be legal, right? That is a majority, 59%. 60% of Latinos think it should be legal. 68% of black people think abortion should be legal. And 74% of Asians think it should be legal. So those numbers, by the way, roughly correspond with how religious each ethnic group I just mentioned is, each, racial group. White people are more likely to be evangelicals, to be Protestants or evangelical Christians, right? Also black people, also Latinos, also black people, right? And then not so much like Asians. And that corresponds, right? That corresponds with your attitude with abortion. Kind of funny how that breaks down, huh? Something else to keep in mind, 54% of people. Oh, another thing to keep in mind there is that of all of those, though, for all the racial groups, all of them support, a majority of them support abortion. Like a majority of white people, a majority of Latinos, a majority of black people, etc. So there is no racial group that supports legalizing or making abortion illegal. Something else to keep in mind, right? That the will of the people is not being done, right? Break it down a little bit more by education. If you have a high school degree, people who have a high school degree, excuse me, 54% of them think it should be legal in all cases. If you have some college, like say an associate's degree, something like that, 63% of those people think it should be legal. Of people who have a bachelor's degree, 64%, and people who have a postgraduate degree, 69%. So the more educated you are, the more likely you are to support abortion. That also is not a coincidence, you know. I mean, if I were a Republican and I heard that, I would say, oh, it's because the evil liberal colleges are indoctrinating our children or whatever. But in real life, it's most likely because when you go to college and get an education, you actually learn about stuff. And one of those things you learn about is how, you know, people should have rights to their bodily autonomy. I mean, that's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong there, but kind of sounds to me that, more likely you are to go to college, the more likely you are to be intelligent, and intelligent people usually have compassion, right? You are like also less likely to be religious. These numbers correspond, right? The higher your education, the less likely you are to be a religious zealot and believe in, like, ridiculous, bigoted crap because of your religion, right? That's also not a coincidence. Speaking of religion, white evangelicals, 74% say abortion should be illegal. So that's kind of the main driver behind all of this because there is a very large number of white evangelicals in the country. The poll didn't have any data about Catholics, but from what I remember, the majority of Catholics believe that abortion should be legal. I think we talked about that last week. Of course, this is a different poll, so they might have different numbers, but if I remember last week, it was something like 60 some odd percent of Catholics think abortion should be legal as well. Of white Protestants who are not evangelical, you know, because evangelical is a very narrow category. Like it covers basically people like Baptists and shit like that, right? Southern Baptists and a couple other ones. But there are white Protestants, people like Presbyterians and that kind of thing, who are not considered evangelicals, Unitarians, that kind of thing, right? Of those people, 60% say it should be legal. So see that contrast there, right? If you're evangelical, 74% against. If you're not an evangelical, right, but you're still white, you're still a Christian, 60% for. This it's painting a picture, isn't it? You know. Also something else, religious nuns, people who don't list a denomination but who still consider themselves religious, 84%. So the less likely you are to be a white evangelical Christian, the more likely you are to support abortion, right? Who are white evangelical Christians? Those are the people that actually go to the mega churches, right? That show up with, put their hands on the TV screen um, when fucking Creflo Dollar or like, Pat Robertson or something is telling you to pray for Jesus. And these are the people that are sending like their fucking welfare checks and shit. Or, you know, not just welfare, but I would say, sending their like social security checks. I guess that's a better comparison there, you know, out to the fucking mega church or whatever, because they think that it's gonna like result in prosperity for them, that kind of thing, right? And these are the people that are basically being manipulated, you know, into voting for Republicans who believe in the exact opposite of everything they believe in. That's what really always got me, the whole thing about Trump, right? Is that, you know how they've kind of like worked Trump into their mythology now? The right-wing evangelicals have sort of like turned Trump into like a prophet, you know. But not really so much a prophet. He's more like one of the biblical characters, like the flawed biblical characters, like Solomon or like Samson or like something like that, who like yeah, like they've kind of turned Trump into one of those people, right? Like David or some shit like that. And the thing about it, it's like everything the guy does is like antithetical to what Christians are supposed to believe in. Like he lies constantly, cheats on his wife. Like, and that's the thing, is that it's not stuff that we like. It's not just rumors or conspiracy theories. Like we know he cheated on his wife. Like he cheated on his wife with a fucking porn star, and then used an illegal campaign contribution to bribe her, right? Like money that came from like his campaign. Like he used that to fucking bribe her so that she would shut up about it, which is illegal, and then his lawyer goes to jail for it. He doesn't go to jail, his lawyer goes to jail for it. And the conservative evangelical Christians, that's a-okay. They just completely ignored that. They just, whatever, oh, that's all fake news, that's blah 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 blah. When we know that the shit's real. That's what really just blows me away about the entire thing, about how these people still, they're I guess support for Trump is starting to kind of falter now because of the hearings, but it really blows me away how these people could see someone lie to their face like that, completely ignore it because, and it kind of makes sense though. Kind of makes sense because they think, because they've been told by their fucking pastors that this guy was like anointed by God or whatever. It's it's ridiculous. Ridiculous. Anyway, so I wanted to kind of lay all that out though. Like the reason why am I talking about stats, right? Because the majority of people in essentially every category except one want there to be abortion rights, right? They want people to be able to get abortions. They want it to be legal. And it's a very small segment of the population, which don't get me wrong, the segment like the evangelical white Christians are, there's millions of them. Okay. But they're not a majority, right? It would be one thing if it was like, you know, these numbers were reversed and like 80% of the people in the country didn't want abortion, then yeah, you could be pissed about it, but at least that would be democracy. At least then you'd be like, well, that sucks. We need to go change hearts and minds, blah, 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 blah. We need to like make our case and fight for our rights and whatever, right? I mean, it would suck, but there would be a little bit of an air of legitimacy, around that. And what really stings about this Supreme Court decision, the fact that they're taking away these rights, is that it's not what people want. Like, not by a long shot, you know. It is kind of illegitimate. And if you really, you start breaking this down a little bit, three of those people that made that decision came from a president who didn't get the majority of votes, right? Who tried to take over the country when he lost the election. Like the first election in 2016 was already kind of shady to begin with. You had a lot of like weird shit going on there with like, Russians and stuff like that. But even if you ignore all that and be like, okay, whatever, we'll accept that. He still got, you know, less votes. He still got less votes and managed to take the presidency, right? On a technicality. Less people wanted him than wanted the other person. And everybody goes out there like, yeah, okay, Hillary sucks, whatever, she lost. Yes, yes, yes. Agree 100%, whatever, right? That doesn't change the fact that she got more votes. She should have been the goddamn president. And if she was the president, this wouldn't be happening, right? That's the plain and simple truth. If Hillary Clinton was the president, we would have abortion rights. Every woman in the country would have a right to get an abortion in every state if Hillary Clinton was a president. That's something that we need to. I want to emphasize that because if you're somebody who cares about abortion and you're not voting accordingly, this is what happens. If you don't vote, the other side does. They win, you lose, right? And then it doesn't matter how much you protest. It doesn't matter how much money you give. It doesn't matter how much time you donate, right? Because they'll just pass a law, take all that shit away anyway, throw people in jail, and when you go out to protest, shoot you with fucking tear gas or whatever, run you over with cars. That's the kind of thing that we're dealing with, folks, right? This is why it matters. Get out there and vote. Anyway, a couple of things I wanted to talk about here. Here was a here was a video I saw that I wanted to comment on. Let me just go over here. Click on this.
I think
Okay,
as of
no,
today's Democrat.
quiet, shut up. This is, let's turn on, I wish I could just like figure out a way to turn these things on so that it doesn't fucking play the, you know, play the goddamn like video before I'm ready. Let's turn this on. Let's make that full screen. So this is a comment by somebody named Cassie Smollett. right? And she is the executive director of the America Rising PAC, which is a pro-Trump PAC, you know, basically one of those people that goes out and makes excuses for when Trump says something dumb. Um, she was also the former deputy communications director for the RNC. So this is here in blue on the far right, right? And so basically, she's one of those people that would dig up like opposition research whenever, like, say, a Democratic candidate would be running somewhere. She'd lead a team. They would go through all of their, like, social media posts and interview their friends and trying to find out if they ever did anything wrong or illegal or just something that they could spin as wrong or illegal, right? One thing you got to remember about opposition research is that 90% of it is just bullshit. Bullshit and like character assassination and stuff like that. But you do get juicy tidbits here and there, right? This is her on Fox talking about abortion. This is shortly before the ruling, and I wanted to play this here for you guys.
I think as a pro-life person, you say, what about the rights of the tens of millions of unborn babies that have been relentlessly under attack by the left for decades now? We are not talking about the same conversation that happened 40 years ago. Today's Democrats are advocating in many cases for the rights to have an abortion beyond the birth of the child. And most Americans would say that's not something that sits well with me.
That liar.
Beyond the birth of the child. I meant to cut that off, but then you could see, like, Anna Kasparian there saying, that liar. Yeah, that's right. Because she is a liar. Right. So let's just examine what that person just said. Right. Beyond the birth of the child. I did not know that you could get an abortion beyond the birth of a child. I thought that when a child was born, it wasn't called abortion anymore. It was called murder. Right. So, where exactly are there any Democrats, liberals, or progressives, or anyone on the left saying that after a baby is born, the mother should have the right to murder it? Hmm? Nobody. Nobody at all ever said that. That was just a lie that Cassie Smollett just made up, right? Because that's what people like Cassie Smollett do. Smedle, how the fuck you pronounce her last name? Smedle, I think? Smettle. Smedle. Okay, Cassie Smedle, excuse me. She's one of those people, for example, who would go out, like, say, a good thing that I managed to find, an example that I managed to find was when Donald Trump in September of 2022, or 2020, excuse me, was asked the question if he would support a peaceful transfer of power. And he refused to answer. He would not say that he would support a peaceful transfer of power, right? Which was a little, little bit of foreshadowing there of what was actually about to happen, right? Cassie Smedel went on TV and basically did damage control for that. She spun Trump's words, tried to blame it on Joe Biden, et cetera, right? That's the kind of person this lady is. And when someone can just lie so casually about that, you got to start thinking about, well, if someone who's like lies just fly out of their mouth so easily like that, do they think that they're actually lying, right? And in the case of this person, I would say maybe not. This person actually does seem like she's buying the Kool-Aid, drinking the Kool-Aid, right? Getting high off of her own supply there. She might actually believe that, right? Where does this kind of misinformation come from? Where does this misinformation come from? Where people think that Democrats and progressives and liberals and stuff want to just straight up murder children after they're born. It comes from preachers. It comes from churches. It comes from extreme, like radical, extreme, like hate preachers getting up in front of their pulpits every day, making up bullshit to scare people so that they'll donate money, right? It comes from people like Focus on the Family, James Dobson, those types of conservative Christian, hate monger type groups who have spent decades raising tons and tons of money trying to fight abortion, demonizing anybody who agrees with them differently, right? These are the same people who are pushing all this bullshit about how trans people are groomers and how like gay people are all pedophiles and stuff like that, right? That's where all this is coming from. It comes from preachers, right? From like basically fucking bigoted conservative Christians who are manipulating people in order to make money. Right? Preachers, guys who get on their radio shows and talk about QAnon shit and conspiracy theories, right? That's right. It's and this shit this unlike the Democratic Party, like in the Republican Party, the shit seems to float to the top, right? Excuse me, mouth is getting a little dry there. I had to drink something. Seems to float to the fucking top. And so it comes to the point where you can't like I can't tell if people like say this person or like Marjorie Taylor Greene or somebody, like I can't tell if they're lying or if they actually believe it. And here's the thing, like a decade ago, when you would hear this same kind of stupid shit out of like say like, you know, somebody like Sarah Palin, for example, I always thought, okay, she's just making it up. It's lies. Nobody could be that fucking dumb. I can't tell anymore. I'm thinking maybe now that you know, somebody like Sarah Palin was like sort of a pioneer in the way that like, the crazies have just taken over the fucking asylum, right? I don't know if you guys remember Sarah Palin so much. She hasn't really been in the news for the last 5 or 6 years, really. But when they got Sarah Palin, when they first announced back in 2008, right, 2007, that she was going to be running for vice president along with John McCain, it was kind of like the biggest joke ever, right? And the media tore her a new one. Like she just had one stupid fucking like she basically destroyed John McCain's presidency. And I really think, John McCain might have actually won if it wasn't for Sarah Palin. She completely destroyed it. She just said one dumb fucking thing after another, right? One stupid interview after another, and she became a joke. And people treated her like a joke. And when the election came around, Obama won all that much harder because Sarah Palin was a fucking joke, right? When Trump ran for office, I thought the same thing was going to happen there because Trump is sort of like Sarah Palin on steroids. They didn't do it this time. The media didn't take his ass out to the fucking shed and beat him with a switch the same way they did with Sarah Palin. They basically the I think one of the big reasons why Trump won was because of all the free media attention he got. He got something like $1 billion worth of like basically free advertising from the major networks. They would do shit like he would have a press conference and it wouldn't start for 15 minutes. And they would cut, like CNN would cut to the empty podium waiting for Trump to show up. And it would just be there for 15 minutes. And he'd just be watching this empty podium, right? And it was like, what the fuck are you people doing? And the thing is, Trump had just as many gaffes. He had worse gaffes. He had worse scandals than Sarah Palin, right? If Sarah Palin were to run for office now, it wouldn't be a big deal. And that's how much you know, the window has shifted to the right in this country, right? Now we're seeing people say shit like this, like we just heard, you know, talking about how evil Democrats and evil liberals or whatnot like murdering babies after they're already born, you know, and nobody bats an eye at it. And that's a scary thing, man. That's really, that's one of those indications of fascism, right? It really is. When you have the free press, the press is supposed to be the unofficial fourth branch of government in this country, and they're basically abandoning their responsibilities, right? Abandoning their responsibilities in order to chase an algorithm and to get more clicks. Here's another one that I read about here, right? Women can control the intake of semen. And I wish I would have got a link for this. Let me just her name was the person who said this was Carrie Ann Lisbon B. Um Here we go. Nope, go away. Let me turn on my window again. And we can make this a little bigger. Here's an article about this. Utah Republican apologist for saying women can't control intake of semen. Carrie Ann Lisbonby, state representative, made remark as conservatives celebrated U.S. Supreme Court abortion ruling. So, nice little 30-second video. Let's watch this.
That I clearly don't trust women enough to make choices to control their own body. And my response is, I do trust women enough to control when they allow a man to ejaculate. So inside of them, and to control that intake of semen. So that may be inflammatory, but I think as a legislature, we have the responsibility to create a legal framework that is friendly in supporting rights.
The reason why I wanted to bring this up was because how casually and easily she mixed something that was incredibly inflammatory and ridiculous, like saying women can control the intake of semen, and just flat out not true, right? I trust women to control the intake of semen when a man ejaculates in them, right? There's no biological process by which a woman can control how much she allows to pass through. That doesn't make any sense. And I know what she's trying to say. What she's trying to say is I trust women to not have unsafe sex. That's what she was trying to say, right? But it makes it sound very, I mean, at least that's what I think she's trying to say. I don't know. I don't want to make excuses for her. Maybe she meant when she actually said. Maybe she thought that, maybe that there's some kind of subconscious fucking biological process by which, a woman can just close the gates to the man's invading semen army or some shit. And then she turns around and says, but we want to make it, so that it supports people's rights. Just immediately turns around and uses that double speak, right? So if you're watching that and you're a Republican, you're a conservative, you support abortion rights, it makes it sound like, number one, Carrie Ann Lisbonby supports rights when she's trying to take away someone's rights. And then number two, it makes it sound like the women that get pregnant are basically, it's like their own fault, right? Like they can somehow control it on a biological level, you know? And then what does that lead to? That leads to people doing things like blaming rape victims for getting pregnant, shit like that, you know? Oh, because you have some kind of misinformation in your head that says that, well, you think that women can control it whether or not they get pregnant. And so you just go, how come you just didn't control it? And why did you get pregnant? Well, you can't fucking control if you get pregnant. But apparently, If you're a Republican, you think you can. That really reminds me of Todd Aiken. I don't know if you guys remember Todd Aiken, but back in 2012, he was a guy that was in Missouri who was like part of the he was like a Missouri state rep for a number of years, and he ran for um, state senate, or he ran for the U.S. Senate for Missouri in 2012. And let me just turn this on. He's actually dead, by the way. Todd Aiken died of cancer. No big loss there. There's an actual video here as well. This is Todd Aiken in 2012 talking about legitimate rape. Play video.
If an abortion could be considered in a case of, say, a tubal pregnancy or something like that, what about in the case of rape? Should it be legal or not?
Well, people always want to try and make that as one of those things. Well, how do you slice this particularly tough sort of ethical question? It seems to me, first of all, from what I understand from doctors, that's really rare. If it's a legitimate rape, the female body has ways to try to shut that whole thing down. But let's assume that maybe that didn't work or something. I think there should be some punishment, but the punishment ought to be on the rapist and not attacking the child.
Legitimate rape. The female body has a way of shutting that down if you get legitimately raped. Let me put the links to these things in the chat for you guys if you want to read them later. So yeah, Todd Aiken, have fun down there burning in hell. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. Here's also the link for the intake of semen if you guys want to read that article too. There you go. So yeah, this attitude, this idea that it's the woman's fault because of biological reasons is nothing new. You know, where do people get these ideas? Where do they get the idea that women have the ability to control whether or not they get pregnant when they're raped or just when they're just normally having sex? They get it from religion. They get it from their churches. They get it from radical Christian preachers, right? Christian preachers who, by law, are not supposed to be talking about political stuff. We're not supposed to be like endorsing candidates or any shit like that, but do anyway because we don't fucking like enforce the laws against Christians in this country, especially against churches. That's where they're getting these ideas, this misinformation. In fact, that's what I think I'm gonna like retitle this stream. I think I'm gonna retitle it something like Christofascists Misinformation is Destroying the Country or some shit like that. Because that's what's going on, right? People spreading lies, which is getting policies passed that will get people killed. Because that's what's gonna happen, folks. Now that abortion is illegal in 26 states, this decision to do that is going to result in women dying, right? Potentially millions of women dying. And the reason why they're dying is because of misinformation has convinced people of these ridiculous fucking lies, right? And hate and bigotry dressed up as Christianity is destroying our country. Seriously, folks, what the fuck? So, where was it? We're at 12 o'clock. Okay, good. So 26 states have, as we said before, have either bans or severe restrictions for abortion, right? To get around this, women around the country are starting to rely more on abortion pills, right? So there's two kinds. You have Plan B pills, which are basically the pill you take the next day when you think you may have been, you may be pregnant, that kind of thing, right? And then there's Plan C pills. Plan C pills are a um, combination of two different drugs that you take basically 24 to 48 hours apart or so. And what it does is that um, it causes contractions to occur, which are similar to, what you would have during a miscarriage, so that you have a basically a medical and, chemical induced miscarriage essentially is what it is, right? And it usually causes bleeding roughly equivalent to a heavy period. So these pills are usually very safe depending on where you get them from, excuse me. More on that later, right? But they still need a prescription. You can't just go get these things over the counter for some dumb fucking reason, right? And in order to get them, because since they're prescription only, you have to have, you have to consult with a doctor, right? The law is that you have to either consult with a doctor or do a teleconference, right? Like when you do it over Zoom, that kind of thing, or you have to do it over the phone. And your phone number like has to be in the state where it's legal, right? In order for that. So, and that doesn't matter. It's even if you just drive over the border and are like right inside of the border of a state where it's legal and you make the phone call, that's legal, right? Or the IP address of your computer has to be within a state that it's legal. So, unfortunately, women who are in these other states where abortion is being restricted have that major hurdle to get through. But that's not that hard of a hurdle to get, you know, not really, right? I mean, all you got to do is drive across the border and then make a phone call, and then you can get these things, right? And so women are starting to turn to these because, first off, they're a lot less invasive, right? They're generally safe, depending, you know. I mean, you might have side effects if you're taking other types of medication, stuff like that, like blood thinners, for example. But we'll talk about that in a minute. And you can't really tell after it happens. There's no way to distinguish whether or not it was an actual natural miscarriage versus a chemically induced one. There's no test that you can take. So there's little risk of like basically the cops won't be able to prove that you did it versus having just a normal miscarriage, right? There is lots of risk, however, in if someone were to be investigated, they may still try to subpoena your phone records to prove and see if you made a phone call, something like that, or use your browser history against you. So that's something that we need to educate women on to make sure that when they're searching for these types of things, they're not doing it from home. Go to a library or something and do it, right? Don't do it from your phone, right? When you make the phone call, use somebody else's phone. Don't use your own. Get a burner, something like that, right? There is some good news in this regard that I saw. Google is going to start auto deleting abortion clinic visits from their user location history. So that's kind of a good thing. There's actually an article on that. I'll put that down in the chat for you guys too, but we're not going to like read from this or anything. But that's actually some good news. So if you actually do go to an abortion clinic, you know, or if you search for one on like Google Maps or something, they're going to like start deleting that. That doesn't change, however, Google still keeps a lot of information, especially in you know, Chrome, right? They keep a lot of information that, like, say, your browser history, stuff like that. So that doesn't mean that you're completely 100% safe if you use Google products, right? So keep that in mind. This is something that any woman that lives in any of these states needs to start, who thinks they may need an abortion one day, they need to start considering this kind of thing, right? Got to start thinking about how you're going to do it, right? In order to skirt around these laws, because your life may depend on it, right? There's also a group called Just the Pill. right? Which is a organization. So if you want to help people, right? If you want to get out there and you want to do something that's going to actually help women, donate to groups like this. Donate your time and your money to groups like Just the Pill, right? So who are Just the Pill? Well, they're basically a group that's providing this exact same thing for women who need it. So they've so far provided 2,500 telemedicine consultations, right, to help women get abortion pills by mail, right, in Colorado, Minnesota, Montana, Wyoming, and a couple of other states. And it has deployed what they're calling a fleet of mobile clinics in Colorado. And what they're doing is they're parking these clinics along state borders so that a woman who needs it can just go right to the border and get her medical care, right? As long as it's legal in that state, of course. So, kind of like a clinic on wheels program. And what it is, they'll provide actual abortions, right? And it's designed to reach patients in states like Texas, Oklahoma, South Dakota, and other states around that area that outlawed abortion as soon as this ruling went down. So that's good news. It's good news that people are getting organized and doing something about it, you know. Um, some not so good news is that the Republicans are starting to push back on this kind of thing and are trying to pass laws to prevent exactly this from happening, right? So in Tennessee, well, first off, in Texas, Texas just straight out enacted a law that bans sending abortion pills through the mail. So you can't even send them through the mail now. I don't know how they would find that. Like if you were to actually send it, like let's say in an unmarked envelope or something, but you shouldn't take that risk. You never know, they might be x-raying the fucking envelopes or something. Right. What, of course, this is going to do is it's just going to result in a black market starting in Texas. That's what's going to happen. And women are going to have to go on the dark web or some shit. And, because it's not like there aren't drug dealers in Texas, obviously. Just in addition to selling weed and cocaine, they're going to be selling Plan C pills. That's what's going to fucking happen. Which can also result in very bad things happening because now women are going to be getting these drugs from sources that are not so trustworthy and you don't know if they're legit and you don't know if the drugs are actually like what you say they are or what the quality is or maybe these are like abortion pills for fucking like cows or something like horse pills. You don't know. And so this is going to result in women getting hurt, possibly dying. So it's still bad. It's bad every which way you look at it, right? Tennessee has enacted a law. It's now a felony to get abortion pills, including morning after pills through the mail. So not just Plan C pills, but also Plan B pills, right? Plan B pills are generally seen as contraceptives because you don't actually know if you're pregnant yet. It's supposed to prevent pregnancy, right? That's what a Plan B pill is. Those are also now legal in Missouri. I don't know if I'm wrong about that, please let me know. But from what I read, said it was illegal in Missouri, which is fucking ridiculous bullshit, right? So the only way you can get them now is from a doctor in a doctor's office, and the doctor must examine the patient in person and must inform the woman that the patient may see the remains of the fetus during the process of abortion, right? That's in Tennessee. You get a $50,000 fine if you like disobey this law, right? So here's the problem with this. Okay, so yeah, you can still get them, you just have to go to a doctor. Well, people who before may have been able to afford to get them through the mail may not be able to afford to go to a doctor. That's the first thing, right? All people who do this, try to do it the legit way, are now required to return for a 2-week follow-up visit for the doctor. So you have to pay for 2 doctor visits now. in order to get something, whereas before they could just mail it to you. The original bill here had a 20-year prison sentence. So, that's what I said. It was a $50,000 fine. Originally, you were supposed to go to jail for 20 years for sending something that one state over is completely legal. That's the real rub about all of this stuff. It's like you're going to get people in jail for shit that one state over is 100% legal. That kind of thing matters. It matters to have consistency in the law, right? You shouldn't have shit like that. It shouldn't be something's fucking like illegal and you get 20 years in this state, and then if you live 5 miles over there, it's 100% like, you know, totally legal, and you can get it on every like, fucking like street corner. Shouldn't be like that. And that's kind of like how, it usually is not in the United States, right? You notice how like when gay marriage was legalized, and it was like first it was legal in like I think it was what Colorado was first or something, or Wisconsin, one of those states. And then it was like Hawaii, and then it started spreading around, and then suddenly California, and then suddenly it was legal everywhere, right? That's kind of how these things usually work. It's usually not illegal in one state and then like, totally fine in another. Usually it sort of spreads around, you know. Here's hoping that this predilection, this current push to take away abortion rights, let's hope that this stops in the red states. But who are we kidding, folks, right? The Republicans are gonna, they're looking for a national ban. You know, Mike Pence came out, said he wants to ban it on a national scale. You know, Mitch McConnell said that a national abortion ban is now on the table. Okay, this is what they're going for. And the next time they take power, the next time there's a Republican president and a Congress which is run by Republicans, they're going to pass a national ban, right? And the Supreme Court, which is run by Republicans, who just passed a ruling saying it should go back to the states, are going to change their minds and say it should be banned nationally. That's what's going to happen. If you don't get your up off your ass, get out there and vote. That is what's going to happen. Where it's headed. We got one chance to stop this in 2024. Elliot Williams, you look a little angry. Tell me what you're angry about, man. Something I'm saying you're not agreeing with, huh? Well, let me know. Let's talk about it. Or maybe it's something I said that you're mad about, but you do agree with me. I don't know. Let me know what you think. Anyway, um, so yeah, very bad stuff. Missouri has just enacted a law similar to Texas, which allows private citizens to sue people. Or, well, actually, they haven't enacted this yet. They're pushing a law which will allow people to sue people if they go outside of the state to get abortions, right? So Missouri was one of the first states to straight out ban it as soon as the ruling came down. They were very happy about that. There was a big article I read about how there was supposed to be a 30-day window, and they had a special session in order to like get rid of that window and make it, the um, trigger law go into effect like immediately, right? Because that's how much, Republicans in Missouri give a fuck about women's rights. So now there's someone in Missouri who's trying to pass a law that since they can't make it illegal in other states, they want to make it very similar to the abortion ban in Texas, where you could sue people, right? Which allows anyone to sue anybody else who helps a woman get an abortion outside of the state for $50,000, which includes the doctor that got it, the guy that drove her to the airport, the person that rented her the car that may not even know she was going there, The guy that sold her an ice quad venti non-fat latte at Starbucks after she got the abortion, the hotel she stays at, anything like that can be sued in another state. Because if you thought it was about state rights, like I'm repeating myself, but I'm only repeating myself because I want that to sink in for anybody who's pro-abortion, who thinks that the whole thing is all about, states' rights or whatever. If you're pro banning abortion, excuse me, this is what it's really about. If it was really about states' rights, they wouldn't be trying to pass laws saying that you could sue people for doing what should be legal in that state, right? It's not about states' rights. It's about enforcing their will on everybody else, right? It's about Christian dominionism. We did a whole stream on Christian dominionism not that long ago. I'll put it down in the chat later. So, anyone who's not hip to what's actually happening with it, anyone who's not educated as to what Christian dominionism is and what their goals actually are can read about it and watch my video, please, because I actually kind of went into it a lot. You know, this is what it's all about. It's about controlling everybody else so that Jesus will finally fucking come back and, like, I don't know, outlaw gun control. I used to say outlaw abortion, but that already happened. Right. So, very bad stuff, folks. Right. As a side note, Missouri law currently does not ban Plan B because that's considered contraception. But give it a matter of time. Here is a article on that on the Missouri law to sue people into compliance. You know, keep in mind we don't have a Supreme Court that will stop these things anymore. We used to. We do not anymore. The Supreme Court supports this shit now. You know, so one of the checks in order to keep the crazies in balance is gone now. We need to remember that as a country. We can't rely on the Supreme Court to make good decisions anymore. That's over with, right? Very, very scary times for a lot of people coming soon, right? Birth of a fascist nation, folks. A little bit of good news. Facebook and Instagram have begun, well, I guess this is good news for them. It's bad news for us. Facebook and Instagram have begun removing posts that offer abortion pills. So, right after this thing happened, lots of people were basically going on like Instagram and like Facebook Marketplace and saying shit like, I can get you abortion pills, call me, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Facebook has taken those things down. Kind of have a mixed reaction here. On one hand, it's bad because these women need these, obviously. On the other hand, you don't want to be getting this medication from people you don't know. You know, that's never a good idea. Never a good idea to go to some weird online pharmacy or just a dude in an Instagram post saying, I can get you pills. Never do that, right? And I know people are saying that, yeah, well, women are going to be desperate and they're going to do it. That's kind of like an example of what happens when you restrict abortion. People make bad decisions and they do shit like that. Don't do that, folks. Get it legit, go through the extra steps, right? And get it from a place that you can trust, right? From an actual doctor, not just a fucking dude on the internet, right? If you want to help women do that, donate your time and your money to groups like Just the Pill and other ones who are going to help women get safe legal abortions, right? Here's a video that I wanted to review for you guys here. I want to open this. Well, I don't know if I want to open it exactly, but I'll put the link down here for you so you guys can see this. This is kind of what I'm talking about here. Well, you know what? Fuck it. Let's open it. Let's open it. Right.
Is that
Nope. Shut up. This is from the. Let's turn on my laptop window. Let's make this a little smaller so YouTube doesn't kill my stream and I don't get no copyright strikes or whatever. This is from the the Anarchist For Vinegar Collective. Right. What this guy's name, his name is Michael Loeffner. He has some advice for women here on how to make your own do it at home abortion pills. Right. I don't know if I really want to watch this entire video because I do want to put it down in the chat for you. Did I already put it in the chat? I think I did. Right. The reason why I don't think this is it's not a good idea. Okay. But anyway, he kind of talks about what's going on here. Let's watch a little bit of this because the beginning of this video I think is actually very relevant and I really very much agree with a portion of this guy's message. So I want to watch a little bit of this, right?
Michael Laufer from the Fourth Use Vinegar Collective here. First things first, if this video is extremely short, it means that the full video has been either blocked or taken down, and there should be a QR code right here, which should take you to the place where the rest of the video is on manufacturing your own abortion pills. That said, if this is only the beginning of the video, then we can get started. And the first thing to mention is that this has been put together with a little bit of haste. Hopefully all of the editing and everything comes through well, but there has been a great deal of panic because the Republic of Texas has gotten up to some shenanigans, which basically are to benefit a bunch of people who are in power to stay in power and to try and keep a bunch of other people powerless. And the mechanism that they're using is to block access to a key medical resource,
which is great. Everything this guy's saying is true here. Right. Very good. And not finding much that I can disagree with in this portion of the video because he's absolutely right. You know, abortion is essentially just a wedge issue that Republicans are using to stay in power. That's really what it is, you know. And it's because the majority of their support comes from evangelical Christians, right? And even though evangelical Christians are a minority of the country, they hold a lot of power in the red states that are out there. They've kind of, like I've mentioned before multiple times in this stream and many other streams, they've managed to grab more power than their proportion of the population, right? Mainly through cheating, mainly through things like gerrymandering and restricting voting rights and stuff like that, right? And outspending their opponents and that kind of thing. You know, squeezing all of the Democratic districts into like 2 blocks, stuff like that, right? And this is kind of the big, abortion. It's sort of like the big, like next to gun rights, next to gun control and getting rid of any gun control, sort of like their main issue. And there's a lot of people, a lot of evangelical Christians who this is the only thing they ever vote for is abortion rights. They don't care about anything else. Kind of the same way there's a lot of people on the right wing who only vote depending on gun control as well in order to stop gun control. And they don't give a shit about anything else. So are these like one issue voters. There's a lot of these people, right? And so that's the thing. He's actually 100% right in that regard, you know. But I get the feeling I'm going to start disagreeing with this guy in a few minutes. I want to skip ahead to about 6 minutes because here's where he actually starts to make the actual pills, right? So roughly here, we're going to skip because we don't have all the time in the world.
And you'll need a spray bottle. And that's it. How to also make a pill of the MIFA to add on if you can. It's a little trickier for logistical reasons only. So, you will need the misoprostol powder. You will need a scale. You will need a pollen press. It's just a tablet press that's designed for bee pollen. You'll need some confectioner's sugar and some cornstarch or powdered milk. And you'll need a spray bottle. And that's it. 6 things. I think that's 6. And hopefully those are listing over here and there are pictures and everything's really...
So I hope you're starting to see the cracks in this here. He's basically telling people, you know, get all of these materials yourself. You can make your own abortion pills. Not that good of an idea, right? So I want to see, because he basically mentions in here like where to get it from. It's very bad. Let's continue.
Clear. And the process that you go through is...
You know, I think I skipped ahead. Yeah, it was right around here where he talks about where to get it from. So let's go back a little bit. Right around here.
And it is entirely possible. In fact, it's rather simple. There are some difficulties sometimes with acquiring some of the ingredients, but hopefully as I talk I can go over all of these things, and again I will flash up QR codes that will give you the resources and everything you need to sort of put it together. So the first thing is that you need 5 or 6 things. You will need...
Alright, let's move on. Okay.
I should back up. Medicated abortion is made up of 1 or 2 different medications. There is misoprostol, which is often referred to colloquially as miso, and there's mifepristone, which is also sometimes referred to just as Mifa. And if you take the regimen of pills of both of these, it's about 95% effective. And if you only do the miso, it's about 85% effective. And we're gonna go through how to do the miso, and then I'll mention how to also make a pill of the Mifa to add on if you can. It's a little trickier for logistical reasons only. So,
All right, before we continue, I just want to reiterate again, you should not do this. You should not be doing this. You know, I don't know. I'm kind of debating with myself here if I should actually play the rest of this video, right? Because I don't want people making their own abortion pills. It is extremely dangerous to make your own abortion pills. You know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. Let's turn this off. But I did put it down in the chat for you guys, didn't I? Let's see. Yes, okay. No, I just put the title. All right, let me put the actual link. So you can watch this for yourself if you want to, right? Put that down there. There's the actual video, right? I just don't, you know what? The more I think about it, because I was going to play that whole video and just comment through it, right? But the more I think about it, it's bad. It's very bad. You should not be making your, and this kind of, you should not be making your own pharmaceuticals for anything. And it's not just abortion pills. I mean, if this dude was making his own aspirin, I would tell you not to do it. You shouldn't be making your own medications at all, like for anything, because medicine is very dangerous. And if you don't do it right, you can seriously fuck yourself up. If not, put yourself in the hospital, if not, kill yourself. You know, and the thing that this guy is describing, so basically what he describes is going and getting, um, it's called misoprostol, right? So he said miso, right? Was the main ingredient. He lists a place to get like generic miso that you would use for like veterinary like reasons. So that right there, first off, should be a red flag. Okay. I mean, is it the same shit? Are you sure? Is it the same quality? You know, is it stuff that they're going to use on fucking like horses and cows and buffaloes and shit? You sure it's up to the same like standard? Like, is it cleared for human consumption? You know, kind of reminds me of like when people were saying like they wanted to take the fucking horse dewormer for COVID, you know, whatever the fuck that shit was. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. And people were rubbing it in their fucking armpits and everything. And it's like, dude, it's the veterinary medicine is like, you know, are you sure it's the exact same formula? That's the first thing. Are you sure what you're getting is like cleared for like use on humans? That's one, right? Second thing is you're measuring it out yourself with you saw what he had there. It was like a fucking kitchen scale that you use for like measuring out like beans and rice and shit, right? Like, you know, that's not what a pharmacy uses when they make medicine. Lewis the Hedgehog, hey, how you doing, man? What's going on? Putty Throat, Ghislaine Maxwell, 20 years. I will give me 5 minutes. I want to finish this up, and then I will address your comment. But you know, that's yeah, like when you go to a pharmacy, you know, those are like trained professionals that are measuring out your medicine with scales that like don't just go to like the gram, you know, like very sensitive because and the reason why it's like they're very sensitive scales and all that shit, it's because if you measure it out wrong and you put the wrong proportion of whatever medicine or chemical you're using, you might get a batch where some of the pills are like, you know, have like more of the active ingredient than others and stuff like that. So you may take one that doesn't work at all, and then you may take another one that has like 3 times the fucking dose of what you need because you didn't like mix the shit right. You didn't measure it right, you know? Because people at home are not, you know, people go to like fucking medical school to learn how to do this. Like, and even like a normal doctor is not a trained pharmacist either. You know, like that's another thing. I mean, it's incredibly dangerous and it's such a bad idea. And I'm really torn on this because, on the one hand, these are women who are desperate and who really need it and who may be facing life threatening situations, right? Where if they don't get like fucking the abortion care they need, they may end up dead. But on the other hand, if they like follow a fucking recipe they got off the internet, you know, like from a YouTube video of a guy who isn't a doctor, they could really fucking end up dead anyway. That's the thing to remember, right? Michael Loeffner from the Anarchist for Vinegar Collective. He's not a doctor, right? He has a PhD in nuclear physics, right? So I guess if you have like a nuclear reactor in your stomach or some shit that goes like, you know, that like melts down, he's the guy to call, right? But he's not a doctor, right? He's not a medical doctor. In fact, in the For Vinegar Anarchist Collective, there are no medical professionals, right? They're all sort of like engineers and programmers and shit, right? So these are people who are not doctors telling you, you know, he got famous, this guy Loeffner, because he sort of hacked together a do-it-yourself EpiPen kind of thing, and they're, you know, medical professionals saying you shouldn't even do that. And it's like, yeah, okay, it may save someone's life if you make it correctly. And that's the thing about it. If you do it right, it may work. You know, if you do it correctly, it may be effective. If you don't do it correctly, if you fuck it up because you're doing it at home with a scale that's broke, or with shit that you got off the internet, with like chemicals you got off the internet or some shit from some dude and you don't even know if it's right or whatever, right? If you do it incorrectly, it could seriously lead to major fucking harm. So I can't, with a clear conscience, I can't play that video. I was going to, and now it's like, no, it's I'm not going to contribute to a woman actually, like, potentially killing herself. That's the shitty situation. That kind of illustrates how bad it is, right? I mean, think about it, man. It's like so many fucking things could go wrong. There's kind of a reason why you need to talk to a doctor first before you get these pills, right? Because there can, besides the fact that it's like, okay, well, Republicans pass laws saying you have to do it in order to try to stop you from getting it. That's one thing, right? But there actually are potential dangerous side effects to these things. For example, if you take blood thinners for whatever reason, like let's say you have like a heart problem or something like that, and you got to take blood thinners. Or another thing, sometimes women who are on birth control pills will take blood thinners, you know, because of some shit that birth control does, it's like to counteract something there, right? Sometimes women will be on blood thinners, and if you take blood thinners, that can react with Plan C pills. It can lead to God, what was it? I got it written down here. You're at risk for hemorrhages if you're on blood thinning therapy and you take this, right? He doesn't really mention that during that video there, that there is actual risks involved. And I mean, generally, Plan C pills are usually very safe, but they're safe when you have a consultation from a doctor who can verify that you're not taking any other medication or have any pre-existing medical conditions which may make it unsafe. You know, like I said, fuck, it's like you shouldn't do this at all for anything. It even if it was like something like, like I said, like fucking aspirin or whatever, you still shouldn't do it. You should never make your own goddamn medicines. And it's not like this guy, what he's describing is like a home remedy or something. He's not telling you to go like, you know, cook some garlic and rub it under your ears or something as like a home remedy. No, he's telling you to go get actual like chemicals and like cut them and fucking bundle them together yourself and weigh them out and all that shit. It's incredibly irresponsible to tell people to do this, right? Oh wow, I didn't know you could. How did that happen? How did I get a map of the paint layer there? Anyway, that was cool. Incredibly irresponsible, right? And it just kind of goes to show, like, when they talk about when you ban abortion, that it leads to death, leads to women dying because they get, illegal abortions. This is an example of that. This is a bad decision that women will be forced to make because they can't get safe and legal abortions. So they're going to be forced to make this decision that, I might die if I go through with the pregnancy, right? But here's a video that I can make my own drugs, which may also kill me. And it's bad all around. It's like it just shows how desperation leads to questionable actions, which leads to actual harm. If you want to help people, I mean, this guy, here's the thing about that video, right? Because I understand he wants to help. And one way, he's the one thing about anarchists is they always have this very sort of do-it-yourself attitude about everything. They always have this kind of like, we don't need authority, we don't need doctors. In this case, the authority would be a doctor. We don't need them, we could do it ourselves. It kind of goes hand in hand with the whole like, you know, idea of self-determination that one usually has when they're an anarchist, right? And I can understand that. He's basically trying to give women options that they don't have, but his options are extremely fucking dangerous. There's a reason why you have regulations of these things, is what I'm trying to say, right? If you really want to help, like I said, go and donate money and time and your resources and spread awareness about groups which will help women get abortions in a safe and legal manner. Groups like Just the Pill, for example. Groups like those caravans of mobile abortion clinics that I was speaking about. Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood opened in Missouri when they outlawed abortion last week. Planned Parenthood they planned ahead and they opened because they had the only available clinic in Missouri that where women could get abortions. They ran it. They closed that down. They're not offering abortions anymore there because it's illegal. They opened another clinic 15 minutes away in Illinois so that you can drive over there, right? This is how you help, okay? If you want to do something in the short term. In the long term, how you help is by voting, right? And you know what? Just get out there, vote for, don't necessarily vote for Democrats, right? I'm not going to tell you to do that. Vote for candidates that will uphold abortion rights. Doesn't matter who they are. You know what? Fuck it. Vote for the Green Party too. I don't give a fuck, right? But get out there and get involved. Get out there, get involved. Vote out the people who are against abortion, right? That's the only way that you're going to be able to guarantee rights and guarantee, in the long term, guarantee access to abortion. If you really want it, you're going to have to, and people don't want to. They don't want to vote for the compromise candidates. Well, how bad do you want it? Do you want it bad enough that you're willing to compromise? Do women's lives mean enough to you that you'll hold your nose and vote for Hillary Clinton or vote for Joe Biden, right? I don't know. They mean enough to me. I think it's important enough to have these rights that I'm willing to compromise and vote for the compromise candidate. Why don't we actually get out there and field some candidates that we don't have to compromise on? How about that? You know, get involved, folks, right? Vote in the primaries, right? That's what really fucking matters. Vote in the primaries. Primary out the conservative Democrats and the conservative Republicans at the same time, right? Vote in the people that will support the shit that you want. If you don't do that, it's never going to change. And you'll always be having these, and this is what'll happen, right? You'll get one party that will take over the government, they'll outlaw it. Another party will come in, they'll re-enable it. Another party will come in, they'll outlaw it again, and it'll just go back and forth forever, right? Unless you fucking you know, vote strategically and vote for the people that will actually make permanent changes. That's what we need, right? Anyway, talking about, let's see, Pony Throat made a comment here that I should address. Thoughts on Ghislaine Maxwell being given 20 years in the electric chair for sex trafficking? No, she didn't get the electric chair. She just got 20 years. Uh, so wait, thoughts on Ghislaine Maxwell being given 20 years in the electric chair for sex trafficking to no one. Sad to hear she committed suicide next month. Wait, to no one question mark sad to hear she committed suicide? Not I think maybe you were writing that on a phone or something, Pony Throat, and it got a little messed up your comment, but I get the gist of what you're saying there. Um my thoughts on that is good. Good. I'm glad. Yeah, she's in prison, you know. Um for anybody out there who's buying this gay and trans people are grifters bullshit, Ghislaine Maxwell is what an actual real like groomer, like Ghislaine Maxwell is like Maxwell, like that's what an actual real groomer looks like. She's actually was a groomer. She went, procured children and groomed them for Jeffrey Epstein. That was her job. And, Donald Trump said he wished her well. So, of course, Donald Trump was not the only person to partake of Ghislaine Maxwell's services. Bill Clinton most likely did as well. We have no actual proof of that, but yeah, he was good friends with Maxwell and Epstein and flew on the private jet many times. Prince Harry pretty much fucking broke down and admitted it when he was confronted by one of the women that he, you know, sexually abused there. I mean, I guess rape is not a too strong of a word for this, so let's just say it. Prince Henry fucking raped her, right? So yeah, it's that's what it actually looks like. That's what being a groomer actually is. It's not, you know, just being trans. It's not allowing trans girls to play sports. It's not going and reading a storybook to children at a library about how it's okay to be who you are or something like that. It's not teaching children that it's okay to be different. That's not grooming. Actual grooming is what Ghislaine Maxwell did. So, anybody out there who still believes in the whole trans and gay people grooming shit, you know, please take a long walk off a short pier and, kiss my ass. Next. Lewis the Hedgehog, is this guy also a grifter? Um, if we're talking about Michael Lofter, he does not seem to be not in the same sense that you would say like, a usual political pundit is. The guy doesn't seem to be a political pundit. Lofner actually seems to have his heart in the right place. Like I said before, he created a sort of a homebrew EpiPen. Seems to want to actually help people, and as far as I can tell, he's not doing things like selling public appearances or you know, doing book tours, shit like that. He doesn't really seem to be doing that. The problem is the way he's helping is not the best thing that you should be doing, right? I mean, yeah, okay, like for let's take the EpiPen thing for example. It could potentially save someone's life, right? And EpiPens are extremely expensive. Like they're like fucking how much are EpiPens? Like I don't know, they're expensive as fuck. They're like $1,000 or something ridiculous like that. Excuse me for a second. So I, on the one hand, am very, kind of somewhat supportive of what the guy is attempting to do. But on the other hand, what he's attempting to do is extremely dangerous. You know, like I said, you should not be making your own pharmaceuticals. You should not be making your own drugs, right? I mean, unless you have the education and the training and the materials and shit to actually do it. Unless you're a doctor or a trained pharmacist, you shouldn't be doing what this guy's trying to do, right? You could really fucking hurt somebody, you know. You could this will lead to situations where a woman who could have gotten help if she would have reached out to an organization like say Just the Pill or something like that, right? Instead will choose to follow these instructions that she read off the internet and put herself in danger and and the younger you are, the less money you have, the more likely that's something you're going to do. Think about that. If you're 16 and you need an abortion, are you going to complicate everything? Like, and you had two choices. Your choices were choice number one, call somebody, have you who will take you to go get an abortion, and your parents might find out, and all this other shit might happen, right? And completely fuck up your life. Or your other option is, hey, I can buy some of these drugs and follow this YouTube video, right? A friend of mine can get it for me, maybe, and we can follow this YouTube video and no one will ever know I got it. Think about that. You're 16 years old. Which one of those options are you going to choose? All right. Seriously, that's what's going to happen. And that's going to put that girl in danger. If she does it wrong, it could fuck her up, right? It could seriously fucking kill her. That's why this shit is bad. That's why this shit is dangerous. And it's like there's no winners in this scenario. That girl is doing this because the Republicans took her rights away. You know, it just really gets me, man. Like, it really gets me because if you were to talk to somebody who was, a conservative, like there, I have a guy on my channel that comes on all the time who's like super conservative, like 1911 greater than all is his name, and he's really, really super conservative and all that. Told me once that he was like borderline libertarian, that kind of thing. And if you were to ask him if he believes in human rights, if you were to ask him if he believes in freedom, he would say yes, that he does. He believes in freedom, right? And he thinks that his ideas promote the greatest amount of freedom. If you were to ask him that, that's what he would say. And if you notice, everything that in real life, everything conservatives support is actually limiting freedom, right? Whereas everything that liberals and progressives support is actually like expanding the greater, like the greatest amount of freedom and safety for the most amount of people, right? So, for example, when you talk about abortion rights, it's like conservatives want to take abortion rights away. You know, they want to take that away, right? Gay marriage, they want to take that away. They don't want to allow you to do that either, right? Sodomy laws, they don't want to allow you to do that either. They want to control what you do in the privacy of your goddamn bedroom, right? There is a significant number of Republicans who don't want interracial marriage either. They want to take that away. Trans rights, there's a big push now in several states to completely ban all transitions for everybody, including adults. They want to take that away. Everything these guys stand for is they want to remove rights from people, right? The only right they give a shit about is the right to bear arms. That's it. That's the only one because to them that's freedom, right? The freedom to kill people, right? The things that they support, you know, results in harm, whereas the things we support results in freedom and reduction of harm. That's the best way that I can describe the difference in political ideologies between me and someone like 1911 greater than all, because that's what every single like stance on every fucking issue turns out to be. They're against regulations of business, right? Why? Because they want to allow, which results in businesses being able to exploit people, being able to pollute more, right? Which results in people being harmed, which results in the environment being destroyed, which results in global climate change and people's houses being burned down and shit like that, right? Like what almost fucking happened to me, right? Fucking fire came within like 20 feet of my fucking house. That's one of the reasons why I moved. I moved out of there into a place that's like more expensive. I mean, it's bigger. My house is actually kind of fucking awesome, but it's more expensive. I mean, I was actually living in a pretty like good place. It was cheap, it was a really nice, it was like a super nice neighborhood where I was. And I moved to a slightly more expensive, slightly shittier neighborhood, bigger house, of course. But the reason I did that is because this is a less of a high fire area than the place where I was at before, right? Why did I do that? Why is that fucking happening? conservatives are taking, their policies, don't want to do anything about what caused those fires. They don't care. They don't care if people like me are put in danger because of their policies when it comes to business and regulation. They don't give a fuck. They rather corporations make money and people die. And that's the same pattern through everything that they believe, human rights, everywhere else. And this is why, that map of the red states corresponds with the map of like I like to point this out all the time because I love maps, but the same states where it's now legal to get abortion are the same states where it's legal to open carry anywhere, you know, inside a fucking church, inside of a grocery store, shit like that. They're the same states where it's illegal for, a child to be transgender and play in sports or use a bathroom that she wants to. That corresponds to the way they want to present themselves. That's illegal. The same states where it's illegal to, smoke marijuana if you want to, right? It's like it's the same pattern over and over and over again. The more red your state is, the less free it actually is. But these are the same people who would tell you that they would be standing for freedom. They think that their stances on these issues actually does promote freedom, and it's the complete opposite. I don't know, folks. It's all fucked up. Anyway, I was also going to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene in this stream, but we're getting close to 1 o'clock and we need to end it. Any more comments here? Let's see. As far as medicine goes, we will still have a long way to go, but moving backwards is not the answer. Exactly. Exactly. Um, Another example. That brings another example to mind. You know, if you want women to have more babies, if you want them to have less abortion, you could make medical care affordable in this country. You could do that by, giving us universal health care or some form of it. Conservatives don't want to do that either. You know, they don't want to do anything that actually helps people. It's like, oh, we want to protect our little baby fetuses, but we're not going to help you actually have a child. We're not going to help you pay for it. We're not going to help you, with things like daycare, anything like that. Shit that other countries have, right? We're not going to do a goddamn thing to lift our finger, but if you don't have the kid, you go to jail. That's what they are going to do, right? It's sort of like, oh, I don't know, using force to dictate your morality on people. Ridiculous. Looks like a hedgehog. Yep, not far where I live, just across the Mississippi River. Oh yeah. Oh, you're talking about um, right, where they opened abortion clinics, right? Lucy Hedgehog, a big problem, however, is gerrymandering, especially in red states. Yes, I mean, you know, gerrymandering, of course, happens everywhere, but there is a major big problem with it in red states. And you're starting to see, I think this is what maybe our stream will be about next week, because we've done like 3 streams in a row on abortion, and we need to start talking about something else. I'm sorry. But you're starting to see a big push now ahead of this next election in order to not just take away voting rights in red states, but essentially scale back democracy itself. This is a big thing that's happening now. Like in Texas, the Republican Party platform in Texas is worth. I think we'll do a stream on that because it is batshit insane, and it basically lays out the plan about how they're going to essentially turn Texas into a autocratic state. Democracy, it'll be a democracy in name only in Texas. There will no longer the people in Texas will no longer have the ability to elect anyone if they enact what they want. If the Republicans in Texas are able to enact the planks of their platform into law, right? It's definitely something that we should talk about. It's something that everybody should be talking about. Anyway, guys, I think that's it. Thank you. This stream was a little disorganized and messed up. I don't know. You know what? You know what it is? I mean, I wanted to draw something else. I'm just not feeling it now. And it's because I'm angry. It's because, the last couple of weeks have just been really shitty. Right? And things are shitty out there. And it's like, you know, but I don't know. There's nothing like bad news in order to just put cramp your style when it comes to being creative. You know what I mean? So I don't know, but I think I am going to start something else. But I don't know, we managed to actually make this look pretty good. It's just that, yeah, we've been doing this piece for like fucking 2 months now at this point. It's time to move on to something else. But I don't know, it's starting to look out pretty good, and then maybe I might periodically pick this up again now and again when we run out of other things to draw. But next week, yeah, something new for sure. I don't know if I'm going to start something new from the ground up or if I'm going to like sketch something or what, but next week we're doing something new. Anyway, guys, I got to get going here. Adversary Fandom 2, play some video games. Oh, you mean to get creative? I read about that actually. I read that yeah, being if you play video games for a little while, it sort of gets your creative mind flowing. I will take that into advisement and think. In fact, I think right after this, I'm gonna go play Diablo. I've been playing what's the new one? The Diablo the mobile game that they have. What's the name of the what's it called? Diablo Immortal. But I got the desktop version of it because it's like fucking it's like 65 megs or gigabytes. Like it's gigantic the game. And which is like that's not so big for a desktop kind of game, but for like a mobile device, like holy fuck, that's gigantic. So I didn't want to like install that on my phone because it's going to take up all the space. But you can actually get like a desktop version of it, you know, and it's actually pretty good. A lot of people are talking shit about the game because it's like there's a lot of pay to play stuff going on with it. But if you just play the base game and like don't give a shit about ladder rankings or anything, like it's actually kind of fun. Anyway, guys, I need to get this let me see here. Let me just open up all of my stuff here. Oh shit, I have an SD order. Okay, cool. I have an order that I need to turn in. Let me turn on all my social medias, of course, here so you guys can check me out. Um, so hang on a second. Here's my ending spiel. Thank you all so much, you guys, for sticking around for so long and listening to me rant and rave and all that shit. And if you want to see more of my work, you can check out my webcomic at hawanja.com. It's got talking ducks, people getting punched in the face, crap like that, and ninjas. hawanja.com. If you want to see more of my artwork, you can go to DeviantArt. This is my DeviantArt page. Here's something I did. This is actually fan art that I did for a guy named Cirrus. If you get a chance to check out Cirrus on YouTube, he's actually really cool. But this is some fan art I did for him. Anyway, check me out on DeviantArt. All of my artwork ends up here. If you want to give me some money, you can buy stuff off of my SD page. I have prints and stuff like that. Getting ready for a show here in August. So I'm making a lot more as far as like stock goes. Anyway, these are all like, please buy something if you want to give me money. And then next I have my other YouTube channel, which haven't really been doing a lot with lately, but I got a lot of plans for it. So if you want to see me play video games or open toys and crap like that, check me out on UCD videos. Um, Also, like I said, yeah, I'm going to be at a convention in Pasadena, California this next in August next month. So called Power Morphicon, which is a Power Rangers kind of convention, you know, but sort of like a general Japanese science fiction kind of con, lots of like Godzilla toys and stuff like that, and then they have like the suits from the different Sentai shows and that kind of thing, and then also a lot of Ninja Turtles crap is going to be there. So I'll be if you're in the Southern California and you want to come visit me, come check me out. It's powermorphicon.com. I will make sure to remind you all. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Lewis the Hedgehog, as always. Elliot Williams, thank you for joining too, even though it looked like you were mad at me. That's okay. Pony Throat, thanks for coming. Adversary Fandon 2, great to see you as always. Bad 66 Chevelles, thank you for joining as well. I will be back Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. and we will be doing a stream then. Anyway, folks, adios. Thank you so